So apparently Americans have been out here treating UTIs with Mountain Dew, diagnosing themselves with Wi-Fi radiation poisoning, and showing up to emergency rooms with the most unhinged, grandma-approved medical myths in human history. And doctors had to keep a straight face through all of it. If you've ever Googled your symptoms at 2 a.m. and convinced yourself you were dying, this video is your people. Smash that, drop a comment with the dumbest health myth you've believed. Subscribe so you don't miss number 23, because it will genuinely make you question everything. And hit that brand new hype button. Let's break YouTube together. 1. Swallowing a watermelon seed will make a vine grow inside your stomach. Someone actually walked into the emergency room describing a vine-like sensation crawling through their gut, fully convinced a plant was sprouting inside them. They told the nurse with complete confidence it was growing. Doctors ran tests and found absolutely nothing unusual. Human stomach acid is so powerful, it dissolves a seed before it even considers germinating. The body is not a garden. Science ended that myth fast. 2. Some people genuinely believe human blood is magnetic enough to attract metal objects. Someone showed up to the ER with 47 refrigerator magnets stuck across their arm, demanding doctors officially confirm their superpower was real. Nurses spent 20 minutes removing novelty pizza and pineapple-shaped magnets, while calmly explaining that blood contains iron at levels so microscopic that no kitchen magnet could ever detect it. The Marvel origin story never happened. They left demagnetized, disappointed, and completely without superpowers. 3. Sneezing too hard can physically shift your brain inside your skull. Someone genuinely showed up to the emergency room after an aggressive sneeze, completely convinced their brain had moved to the left side of their head. They described the sensation with total confidence and demanded a brain scan immediately. Doctors ran the scan, found everything perfectly centered and completely normal. The human brain is secured inside the skull with protective fluid and membranes specifically designed to prevent shifting. One sneeze cannot relocate your brain. Anatomy does not work that way. 4. The human body can filter out toxic chemicals exactly like a water purifier. Someone came into the ER after eating a Tide Pod on a dare, calmly insisting their digestive system would simply process the concentrated detergent like a Brita filter handles tap water. Doctors were not impressed. Tide Pods contain corrosive chemicals that actively burn through tissue and cause serious internal damage. The human body has zero filtering mechanism for industrial cleaning agents. The Brita comparison was creative, though. Completely wrong, but genuinely creative. 5. Raw bacon wrapped around a sprained wrist pulls out swelling like a sponge. Someone arrived at the emergency room with an entire strip of raw pig fat tied around their wrist because grandma swore by it. Doctors unwrapped the bacon, confirmed the sprain, and also flagged a potential bacterial infection risk from raw meat sitting against broken skin. Grandma meant well. Grandma was absolutely wrong. Ice packs, eye elevation, and medical wrapping exist specifically because bacon was never a legitimate treatment option. 6. Lying face down on a rooftop absorbs vitamin D directly through the spine. Someone fell completely off a roof, attempting exactly this, convinced that spine-direct solar absorption was a real biological process that doctors simply were not telling people about. Emergency responders retrieved them from the ground below. The spine does not absorb vitamins through skin exposure any differently than any other body part. Regular sunlight on normal skin works fine. Nobody needed roof access for this. Nobody needed to fall. 7. Staring directly at the sun resets your circadian rhythm and stops nosebleeds naturally. Someone showed up to the ER with a nosebleed they triggered by doing exactly that, genuinely believing solar gazing was a legitimate medical reset technique. Doctors treated the nosebleed and strongly warned against continuing the sun-staring experiment. Direct sun exposure damages retinas permanently and has absolutely zero proven effect on circadian rhythm regulation. There are actual science-backed methods for sleep cycle correction. None of them involve damaging your eyes permanently. 8. Standing near a Wi-Fi router too long causes radiation to build up inside human skin and produce rashes. Someone came into the emergency room convinced their router had been slowly poisoning them through invisible signal accumulation. Doctors examined the rash and traced it back to a new laundry detergent used 3 days earlier. Wi-Fi operates on non-ionizing radiation frequencies, completely incapable of causing tissue damage or skin reactions. The router was innocent the entire time. The detergent was the villain nobody suspected. 9. Taping a raw onion directly to your forehead breaks a fever faster than any medication. Someone tried this classic folk remedy, used super glue to secure the onion firmly in place, and ended up in the ER with a severe allergic reaction to the adhesive rather than any fever relief. Doctors removed the onion, treated the reaction, and confirmed that onions have no fever-reducing properties whatsoever. The fever was still present after all of that. The onion accomplished nothing except creating an entirely new medical problem. 10. Mercury being in retrograde physically affects human soft tissue and causes muscle injuries. Someone told their triage nurse with complete seriousness that a pulled muscle was the direct result of planetary positioning and that their body always tenses up during retrograde cycles. The nurse documented it professionally without laughing. Doctors confirmed a standard muscle strain from physical overexertion. Mercury retrograde is an optical illusion caused by orbital speed differences. Planets do not have jurisdiction over your hamstring. Astrology has never once filed a medical report. 11. Walking barefoot on burning hot coals activates dormant healing cells hiding inside the body. Someone attended a wellness retreat where this was presented as legitimate medical therapy and ended up in the emergency room with serious burns across both feet. Doctors treated the burns and confirmed that no dormant healing cells exist anywhere in human biology, waiting to be activated by fire. The body does not operate like a sleeping computer needing a reboot. Hot coals cause burns. That is their only biological contribution to human health. 12. A psychic realigning your aura too aggressively can physically injure your elbow joint. Someone came into the emergency room insisting their elbow pain was caused by an overly enthusiastic aura adjustment during a spiritual session. Doctors examined the elbow, confirmed inflammation from repetitive strain, and traced it back to a recent home renovation project the patient had completely forgotten mentioning. The psychic was cleared of all charges. The paint roller was the actual culprit. Auras remain undetectable and have never once appeared on an X-ray. 13. If your stomach makes a specific gurgling sound you heard in a TikTok video, you definitely have a parasite. Someone arrived at the ER in full panic after matching their digestive noises to a 30-second clip and self-diagnosing a serious infestation. Doctors ran thorough tests and found nothing parasitic whatsoever. Stomachs gurgle constantly as a completely normal part of digestion. TikTok is not a diagnostic tool. Gastroenterologists spend 8 years in school specifically so that internet videos do not replace them. The stomach was fine. 14. Superglue works exactly like medical wound closure strips and can safely seal deep cuts at home. Someone applied hardware store superglue to a significant laceration and successfully bonded 2 fingers together in the process. Doctors spent considerable time carefully separating the fingers before treating the original wound properly. Medical-grade skin adhesives exist and are formulated specifically for tissue contact. Regular superglue contains chemicals that cause heat reactions against skin. The wound needed stitches the entire time. The superglue added a bonus problem nobody requested. 15. Drinking an entire gallon of pickle juice in one sitting fully restores electrolytes after any level of physical activity. Someone consumed the full gallon after a 10-minute casual walk and ended up in the emergency room with severe nausea and a dangerously elevated sodium level. Doctors explained that electrolyte restoration requires balanced amounts of multiple minerals, and that pickle juice in extreme quantities creates dangerous sodium spikes instead. Small amounts after intense exercise have minor benefits. 1 gallon after a stroll is just a sodium overdose wearing a wellness costume. 16. Soaking in bleach dissolves heavy metals hiding inside your pores and completely detoxifies the body. Someone filled their bathtub with actual household bleach and sat inside it long enough to develop serious chemical burns across large portions of their skin. Doctors treated the burns and explained that the skin does not store heavy metals in pores waiting to be dissolved. The liver and kidneys handle detoxification continuously without any assistance from cleaning products. Bleach belongs in bathrooms for surface sanitation only. It has never belonged in the water with a human body inside. 17. Sleeping during the wrong moon phase causes joints to loosen and dislocate overnight. Someone arrived claiming their shoulder had slipped out during sleep because the lunar cycle was misaligned with their body. Doctors popped the shoulder back into place and asked some follow-up questions. After gentle prodding, the patient admitted they had been on a slip-and slide the previous afternoon. The moon was completely uninvolved in the dislocation. Gravity, physics, and a wet plastic sheet on a lawn were entirely responsible. Luna was not consulted. 18. Using regular unfiltered tap water in a neti pot is perfectly fine because water is just water. Someone used tap water for a nasal rinse because distilled seemed unnecessarily expensive and ended up in the emergency room following a terrifying encounter with what doctors described as a brain-eating amoeba scare. Tap water contains microorganisms completely harmless when swallowed, but genuinely dangerous when introduced directly into nasal passages near the brain. Distilled or sterile water for neti pots is not optional luxury advice. It is the difference between a clear nose and a nightmare. 19. A dentist drill vibrating near your jaw can knock your chakras out of alignment and cause dry socket. Someone returned to the emergency room after a tooth extraction, convinced their jaw chakra had been spiritually disturbed by dental equipment frequencies rather than accepting the standard medical explanation. Doctors treated the dry socket with proper dressing and pain management. Chakras are a spiritual concept with no anatomical location in any medical textbook. Dental drills vibrate to cut through enamel. They have no spiritual frequency setting. The extraction site needed care, not realignment. 20. Homemade fire cupping using mason jars and paper towels works identically to professional therapeutic cupping. Someone constructed a DIY cupping kit from kitchen supplies, introduced open flame into the process, and arrived at the emergency room with burns in perfectly circular patterns across their back. Professional cupping uses specifically designed equipment with controlled suction and no direct fire contact with skin. Mason jars are for preserving jam. Paper towels are extremely flammable. Combining both against bare skin while attempting medical therapy is how a wellness experiment becomes an emergency room visit with a very embarrassing explanation. 21. Cracking your knuckles long enough and hard enough can eventually pop a migraine out through your temples. Someone genuinely believed sustained knuckle cracking created pressure waves that traveled through the body and released tension trapped inside the skull. They cracked every finger repeatedly for 40 minutes and ended up in the ER with swollen joints and the exact same migraine still running strong. Knuckle cracking releases gas bubbles inside finger joints and does absolutely nothing beyond that radius. Migraines require actual medical treatment. Your temples are not a pressure release valve waiting to be unlocked. 22. Taping a raw egg directly onto a bruise overnight transfers healing protein straight into the damaged tissue. Someone woke up the next morning with the original bruise completely intact and a brand new salmonella skin infection developing underneath the eggshell residue. Doctors treated both issues and explained that skin does not absorb protein from external food sources applied against it. Bruises heal through internal circulation and time. Raw eggs on open or irritated skin introduce dangerous bacteria with zero therapeutic benefit. The egg accomplished nothing positive. It only added a second diagnosis to an otherwise straightforward situation. 23. Staring intensely at a specific shade of green for an extended period naturally corrects blurry vision. Then someone sat in front of a carefully chosen green screen for 45 straight minutes, convinced color frequency therapy was about to fix their eyesight permanently. Vision got noticeably worse by the end of the session. Doctors confirmed eye strain and explained that blurry vision requires proper diagnosis since causes range from simple refractive errors to serious conditions. No color frequency has corrective properties. Glasses, contacts, and surgery exist because staring at green never worked for anyone. 24. Using a vacuum cleaner attachment to suction out an ear infection removes the bacteria causing the problem. Someone inserted a household vacuum hose directly into their ear canal on full power and ruptured their eardrum within seconds. Doctors confirmed significant eardrum damage and explained that ear infections live in the middle ear behind the eardrum, completely unreachable by external suction of any kind. The vacuum could never access the actual infection. It could only destroy the membrane protecting it. Antibiotics treat ear infections. Household appliances treat floors and carpets exclusively. 25. Sitting inside a sealed car during an August afternoon sweats out strep throat bacteria through the skin. Someone locked themselves inside a vehicle with windows fully closed on a summer day, believing fever-induced sweating would purge the infection, and ended up being treated for heat exhaustion alongside the original untreated strep. Strep throat is a bacterial infection living in throat tissue and responding only to antibiotics. Sure, sweating removes water and salt. It removes zero bacteria from anywhere. The strep remained completely unbothered inside the throat, while the rest of the body overheated dramatically outside. 26. Deliberately placing a bee sting on an arthritic knee delivers targeted venom therapy that reduces joint inflammation naturally. Someone with a severe undiagnosed bee allergy attempted this at home after reading about apitherapy online and went into anaphylactic shock within minutes. Doctors stabilized the situation and explained that while apitherapy research exists in very controlled clinical settings, self-administering bee stings at home without allergy testing is genuinely life-threatening. The knee inflammation was minor, the allergic reaction was not. Googling a therapy and attempting it unsupervised are two very different categories of decision-making. 27. Packing cayenne pepper directly into an open wound cauterizes it naturally and stops bleeding like a medical procedure. Someone did exactly this after reading it in a Facebook health group and arrived at the emergency room with a wound now contaminated with spice, significant additional tissue irritation, and bleeding that had not stopped. Doctors cleaned the wound thoroughly, removed the pepper, and closed it properly. Cayenne contains capsaicin, which causes intense burning and tissue irritation. It does not cauterize anything. Actual cauterization requires medical equipment and controlled heat. Facebook groups are not surgical theaters. 28. Activated charcoal lemonade cleanses the body and safely combines with prescription medications as part of a detox routine. Someone consumed a full charcoal cleanse drink while taking daily prescription medication and ended up in the emergency room because the charcoal had absorbed the medication completely before it could enter the bloodstream. Activated charcoal binds aggressively to substances in the stomach, including life-saving medications people actually need. Doctors use it deliberately in poisoning cases for exactly this reason. Taking it casually alongside prescriptions is not a wellness upgrade. It is medication sabotage dressed in trendy beverage packaging. 29. Putting pure essential oils directly into the eyes treats pink eye because lavender has natural antibacterial properties. Someone dropped undiluted lavender oil straight into an infected eye and arrived at the emergency room with the original pink eye still fully present, plus a brand new chemical corneal burn on top of it. Essential oils are highly concentrated plant compounds, completely unsafe for direct eye contact. Even genuinely antibacterial substances require proper dilution and formulation before touching delicate eye tissue. Lavender smells wonderful. It belongs in a diffuser, on a pillow, or in a bath, never inside a human eyeball. 30. Placing raw potato slices on a sprained ankle draws out inflammation because starch absorbs swelling from soft tissue. Someone sat with potato slices strapped to their ankle for 6 hours based on advice from a Facebook wellness group while the actual sprain went untreated and worsened significantly. Doctors applied proper compression, elevation, and ice protocol, and explained that starch has zero interaction with inflammatory fluid inside joint tissue. Potatoes are a vegetable. Inflammation is a complex biological response. These two things exist in completely separate categories that no Facebook group has the authority to merge. 31. Running a TENS unit for back pain at maximum electrical setting heals injuries faster because more electricity means stronger treatment. Someone cranked their home device to full power, believing intensity directly equaled healing speed, and ended up in the emergency room with muscle spasms so severe they could not stand upright. Doctors explained that TENS units work through gentle nerve stimulation at low controlled settings. Maximum voltage does not accelerate healing. It overwhelms nerve endings and causes involuntary muscle contractions instead. The back pain remained. The unit got confiscated. More electricity never meant better medicine for anyone. 32. Psychic energy physically enters the human body through the mouth and can be tested by burning the tongue deliberately. Someone held their tongue against a hot surface to test whether incoming psychic frequency created a heat resistance effect and arrived at the emergency room with a 2nd-degree tongue burn and 0 psychic powers confirmed. Doctors treated the burn and gently suggested alternative hobbies. The human tongue has no psychic receptors in any known anatomy. Heat damages tongue tissue, regardless of spiritual beliefs or cosmic energy levels. Physics applies universally and does not make exceptions for wellness experiments. 33. Pointing a hairdryer directly at a skin rash dries it up the same way heat dries a wet surface. Someone blasted a rash with a hairdryer on high heat for an extended period and arrived at the emergency room with the original rash still present underneath a fresh layer of 2nd-degree burns. Doctors treated the burns first and then addressed the rash with actual topical medication. Skin rashes are biological inflammatory responses occurring beneath the surface. They are not moisture sitting on top of skin waiting to evaporate. Heat applied externally makes most rashes significantly worse. 34. Avoiding all food and water for 3 days starves harmful bacteria completely because even water feeds bad organisms inside the body. Someone completed a full dry fast they discovered online and arrived barely conscious with severe dehydration, dangerously low blood pressure, and organ stress indicators across multiple systems. Doctors intervened immediately with intravenous fluids. Water does not feed pathogenic bacteria in any meaningful way that benefits the bacteria over the host. The human body requires continuous hydration to maintain every single organ function. Starving bacteria through dehydration starves the entire body significantly faster and more dangerously. 35. Taping a frozen steak to a black eye with duct tape draws out bruising faster than ice packs. Someone applied the steak, secured it tightly with duct tape, and discovered upon removal that the tape had ripped off most of the eyebrow along with it. The doctors treated the torn skin and explained that the cold from any food item works similarly to a proper ice pack, but introduces bacteria risk against facial skin. The steak provided 0 additional benefit over a regular cold compress. The duct tape provided only pain and a significantly thinner eyebrow than the person arrived with. 36. Positioning your face directly over a pot of boiling water, steam cleans the sinuses and kills infection. Someone held their face inches above actively boiling water with no towel barrier and arrived at the emergency room with severe steam burns across the nose, cheeks, and forehead. Doctors treated the facial burns and explained that steam inhalation done safely requires distance, a towel tent, and water that is not at full boiling temperature. And direct boiling steam contact causes immediate tissue burns. The sinuses remained congested throughout the entire process. The face paid an enormous price for zero medical benefit. 37. Crushing ibuprofen into powder and inhaling it through the nose delivers faster headache relief by bypassing digestion entirely. Someone tried this logic, snorted crushed ibuprofen directly, and arrived at the emergency room with severe nasal membrane irritation, a chemical burning sensation throughout the sinus cavity, and the original headache still completely unresolved. Doctors explained that ibuprofen works by entering the bloodstream through digestive absorption, not nasal membrane contact. Insufflating crushed tablets causes direct tissue damage with zero additional speed benefit. Swallowing a pill with water takes 11 minutes. Destroying your nasal cavity takes considerably longer to heal. 38. Swallowing a small magnet aligns the iron particles inside red blood cells and increases energy levels naturally. Someone consumed a magnet specifically for this purpose and ended up in the emergency room after doctors identified a serious risk of internal tissue attraction if multiple magnets or metal objects were present in the digestive tract simultaneously. Magnets inside the body can attract through intestinal walls, causing dangerous pinching and perforation. Red blood cells contain iron in a form completely unresponsive to external magnetic fields. The energy boost never arrived. The emergency scan arrived instead and found something far more concerning. 39. Hand sanitizer kills cold sores when applied directly because it destroys germs on surfaces, and lips are just another surface. Someone applied hand sanitizer repeatedly to an active cold sore, believing surface, disinfection logic transferred to viral skin infections, and arrived with significant chemical burns layered over the original sore. Doctors treated both and explained that cold sores are caused by the herpes simplex virus, living inside nerve tissue beneath the skin surface. Hand sanitizer cannot reach subcutaneous viral reservoirs, it only contacts the outermost skin layer. Antiviral medications treat cold sores. Ethanol gel treats doorknobs and grocery carts. 40. Stomping your foot repeatedly on hard ground shakes a leg cramp loose the same way you shake a stuck object free. Someone saw this technique in a viral TikTok video, stomped aggressively on concrete flooring, and fractured a toe in the process, while the cramp resolved on its own seconds later through completely normal biological means. Doctors treated the fracture and confirmed that muscle cramps release through stretching, hydration, and electrolyte balance. Impact stomping contributes nothing therapeutically. The cramp left because cramps always leave eventually. The fractured toe stayed considerably longer than anyone planned. 41. Drinking only Mountain Dew for 24 hours flushes out a urinary tract infection because citric acid kills the bacteria causing it. Someone consumed nothing but Mountain Dew for an entire day, believing the acidity would scrub their urinary tract clean, and arrived at the emergency room with the original infection significantly worse, plus a blood sugar spike that concerned doctors immediately. UTI bacteria thrive in sugary environments. Mountain Dew contains enormous amounts of sugar alongside minimal citric acid levels. The bacteria did not get flushed. They got fed an extremely generous meal and multiplied enthusiastically throughout the process. 42. Bear hugging someone from behind and jumping aggressively cracks the spine back into alignment exactly like a professional chiropractic adjustment. Someone convinced a friend to perform this maneuver, heard a pop that sounded immediately wrong, and both of them ended up in the emergency room shortly after. And doctors confirmed a ligament injury and explained that spinal manipulation requires years of professional training, precise technique, and detailed knowledge of individual patient anatomy. Random jumping bear hugs apply unpredictable force across uncontrolled spinal segments. Licensed chiropractors spend years learning what not to do. Enthusiastic friends have never once read that curriculum. 43. Sleeping with a raw steak pressed against the chest transfers animal protein directly into sore pectoral muscles overnight through skin absorption. Someone woke up after a full night with the steak still strapped firmly to their chest. Muscles equally sore as the night before, and a bacterial skin reaction developing from hours of raw meat contact against warm skin. Doctors treated the infection and explained that skin does not absorb dietary protein from external sources under any circumstances. Muscles recover through rest, hydration, and internal nutrition. Raw meat on skin contributes only bacteria. The pectorals were completely unimpressed. 44. Using a turkey baster to self-administer a forceful homemade saline flush clears ear blockages as effectively as professional irrigation. Someone filled a turkey baster with saline solution, inserted it into the ear canal, and squeezed the bulb at maximum force, rupturing the eardrum instantly. Doctors confirmed significant eardrum damage and explained that professional ear irrigation uses controlled low-pressure equipment specifically calibrated to avoid membrane damage. So the eardrum is an extremely delicate structure sitting millimeters inside the canal. Turkey basters are calibrated for nothing except moving cooking juices around a roasting pan. These are not interchangeable medical instruments. 45. Melatonin is completely harmless in any quantity because it is natural and natural substances cannot cause overdose symptoms. Someone took melatonin every single hour for 6 consecutive hours, believing natural origin meant unlimited safe dosage, and ended up in the emergency room unable to stand upright, severely dizzy, and with a heart rate behaving erratically. Doctors explained that melatonin affects neurological and cardiovascular systems at high doses regardless of its natural origin. Arsenic is also natural, so is hemlock. Naturalness has never once been a reliable safety guarantee for anything entering the human body in excessive, unregulated quantities. 46. Holding a lit candle directly under the armpit detoxifies lymph nodes by drawing out trapped toxins through heat exposure. Someone held an open flame against their armpit skin long enough to cause a burn, requiring medical treatment after discovering this technique on a wellness Instagram account. Doctors treated the burn and explained that lymph nodes filter biological waste through an internal circulatory process completely inaccessible from outside the skin. No external heat source reaches lymph node tissue. Candles produce flame, wax, and light. They produce zero lymphatic detoxification, regardless of how many wellness influencers claim otherwise on social media. 47. Rubbing raw chili peppers aggressively across the scalp stimulates dormant hair follicles back into active growth. Someone applied raw chili directly to their entire scalp and arrived at the emergency room with severe chemical burns across the skin, eyes swollen from capsaicin exposure, and not a single new hair follicle showing any signs of activation. Doctors treated the burns and clarified that capsaicin, in highly diluted topical formulations, has shown minor circulation benefits in clinical studies, but raw chili pepper applied directly causes tissue damage that destroys follicles rather than stimulating them. The hair situation became considerably worse than before the experiment started. 48. In doing 200 consecutive jumping jacks shakes a kidney stone loose through impact vibration exactly like shaking a stuck object free from a container. Someone performed the full 200 repetitions, passed out from exhaustion midway through the final set, and woke up in the emergency room with the kidney stone still completely present and an additional diagnosis of severe muscle fatigue. Doctors explained that kidney stones pass through urination, assisted by hydration and sometimes medication. Gravitational jumping creates no useful internal dislodging force on stones inside the renal system. The stone was unmoved. The person was extremely moved directly onto the floor. 49. Chest pain from acid reflux is actually trapped laughter energy accumulating inside the body because not laughing enough causes emotional blockages that manifest physically. Someone avoided seeking medical attention for recurring chest pain because a wellness influencer had convinced them forced giggle therapy would release the blockage and arrived in the emergency room only after the pain became impossible to ignore. Doctors diagnosed acid reflux and prescribed actual medication that resolved the issue within days. Laughter has genuine mood benefits, backed by real research. It does not treat gastrointestinal conditions. Acid reflux responds to medicine, dietary changes, and doctors, not to forced giggling on a wellness Instagram page. And there you have it. 49 people who looked a doctor dead in the eyes and genuinely believed bacon, magnets, and Mountain Dew were legitimate medical solutions. The human body has survived everything except apparently common sense. If you learned something today, or just felt dramatically smarter than usual, smash that like button because you earned it. Subscribe to BrainFumble and hit the bell so you never miss another glorious disaster. Now tell us in the comments, which myth did you actually believe growing up?